What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get to it.
The name Optima appeared in the Kia lineup in 2000, and this car, factory code MS, was created practically by badge engineering methods, as it was a slightly rehashed Hyundai Sonata model. The second generation, Milligram, which was born in 2005, had already significantly more differences from the Sonata because it was built on its own platform, and the restyling in 2008 was handled by maestro Peter Schreier. Curiously, the name Optima was used only for the US and Malaysian markets, while in most other countries the car was sold as Kia Magentis. Well, the next generation, TF, about which, in fact, we will talk about, was developed directly under the leadership of Schreier. Besides him, the creator of Kia Ceed Miklos Kovacs worked on the car, and the chief engineer was Italian Davide Limongelli. The car was presented to the world public at the New York Auto Show in spring 2010. It also received several names in the world. For example, in China and in its home country, South Korea, it was sold as the K5. From a technical point of view, the Optima did not offer any breakthrough innovations: front-wheel drive, front suspension, McPherson struts, rear multi-lever, but in terms of equipment with various systems, the sedan could give a head start to other famous competitors. The model was equipped with a whole line of gasoline four-cylinder engines of NU and Theta 2 families with an output from 142 to 267 horsepower, as well as 134 horsepower diesel U2 CRDI, but in Russia were officially offered only two options: 2.0-liter NU G4ND, with an output of 150 horsepower, and 180 horsepower Theta 2 G4KE with a volume of 2.4 liters. In addition, in the fall of the same 2010 in Los Angeles was shown an hybrid version, but it was not delivered to Russia. Mass sales of the car in Russia began in 2012, when Optima III replaced the Magentis model on the assembly line of Kaliningrad of Toda. A total of 9,419 cars were produced between November 2012 and December 2015, and in the crisis year 2015, 3,096 Kia Optima were sold, 8% more than in the previous year, after which the plant mastered the assembly of the next generation of the model. And if you are interested in this option, you will not be uninterested to read what Kia Optima TF owners write in their online reviews. When the Kia brand launched the third generation Optima model on the market, the company made no secret of the fact that it was aimed at the sacred cow of Russian motorists, the dream of any middle-level official, the Toyota Camry. And indeed, judging by the reviews, the Korean company's car turned out to be no worse than the Japanese bestseller, and in some respects even better, while being cheaper. If you want to drive in business class comfort, and your budget is minimal, this car will suit you completely. Optima is a classmate of Camry and Mazda 6, but it is not inferior. In some things even surpasses. For example, the cost of the car in the secondary market is lower, and maintenance is undoubtedly cheaper. Only in one thing Optima lost to Camry: in prestige, and it lost significantly. The authors of reviews write, certainly, Kia brand lacks image and popularity in this class. Perhaps this will be the only reason why people will buy cars with another badge on the radiator grille. Of course, it is not BMW, not Audi and not Lexus. And, probably, it will never become them. Few people took Optima because of its unpretentiousness. We can speculate about the reason for this situation and assume, for example, that one of the factors was the undoubted success of the brand in the mass segment and the success of such a model as Solaris. What to do? The brand is associated primarily with affordable and inexpensive cars of segment B. So those for whom the very possibility to say, so what if it is not new, but it is Toyota, or Mercedes, Honda or Volkswagen, is important, it is better to pay attention to some other models. As a matter of fact, among the authors of reviews there are quite a lot of those who before buying Optima did not even look in the direction of Korean cars, but then sharply changed their attitude. Very good car. I used to think worse about Koreans. I never considered Korean car industry seriously, but when I sat behind the wheel of Kia Optima, then, as they say, love at first sight happened. Maybe that's why owners are so offended by bias and subjectivity, which can often be encountered on car forums. They like to write On such forums with foam at the mouth that they would never buy a Korean bucket for such money, it is better to take a German or Japanese or any other car. If you write comments, refrain from hysterics about how expensive for this Korean junk. I'm tired of it. But the appearance can be attributed with 100% certainty to the unconditional advantages of the Kia Optima. We could not find a single review in which the author spoke negatively about the appearance of the car. On the contrary, in almost every review, even not the most praiseworthy, you can find such words: it looks solid and expensive. To me, the most successful body, it looks obviously more expensive than it costs, the design is just on top, appearance outweighs all prejudices. I will not dwell on the design, you can see everything, it is beautiful. Moreover, in their reviews the owners note that even after 10 years the car does not look fossilized. On the contrary, the Optima III still looks quite stylish and modern, taut body lines, aggressive front end, sloping rear pillar, giving the car a certain coupe-like look. If the design of previous Kia models received a lot of criticism for lack of style, secondary, some underdone or, on the contrary, excessive pretentiousness and deliberateness, the Optima does not cause such feelings. What can I say? Peter Schreier's arrival in the Kia team immediately raised the overall level of design to the appropriate height. And it is no coincidence that for many owners it was the appearance that became the decisive factor that led to the purchase of this model. I bought it because I liked the look. I've been looking at the Optima for a long time, the design is above reproach. As they say, I chose with my heart and eyes. But, in addition to purely aesthetic, the body of Optima III has a number of absolutely practical advantages. For example, many people note excellent aerodynamics, and mirrors are not dirty with flying from the road dirt, and the sides remain clean for a long time. And the doors also cover the sills, so even after trips in bad weather, the driver and passengers have the opportunity to get out of the car without getting their pants dirty. Assessments of Optima's visibility in owners' reviews are quite contradictory. Someone writes that visibility is good, someone writes nothing about it, someone does not describe the problem in detail, but simply lists visibility in the list of shortcomings. But there are also enough of those who bring to the court of public quite specific complaints. Personally, in the dark time of the day, when looking and turning to the left, when you need to let pedestrians pass, the stand on the driver's side interferes with me. I have to shake my head left and right to make sure that the pillar does not block anyone. The only thing that interferes is the front pillars together with the mirrors. For maneuvers in the city, you'll have to make some additional back and forth movements with your head and torso. The reasons for this are quite clear. The large slope of the windshield and safety requirements force designers to increase the thickness of the front pillars, plus the steering column of the Kia Optima III is adjustable only by angle. As a result, there are problems with visibility forward and to the sides, but not for all owners. But the interior of the Kia Optima III gets a friendly endorsement. First, owners like the ergonomics of the driver's seat. The driver's seat is comfortable, with an adjustable lumbar support, thanks to which the back does not get tired even when traveling very long distances. I can guarantee that when traveling long distances your back will not hurt and will not feel tension. It is comfortable to sit. My back never got tired and did not hurt. The seats are comfortable rather than sporty, but not an American couch either. In a word, having sat comfortably behind a wheel, you understand that ergonomics of a driver's place and as a whole salon is organized very well. Indeed, in many reviews the authors note the Optotronic instrument panel perfectly readable in any light, color screen of the onboard computer. The console allows turn to the driver. The monitor itself is characterized by good graphics and fast response. All functions are intuitive. The quality of finishing materials is also quite positive. The quality of interior materials is fair and at a very good level. Interior materials are of good quality, though not Lexus, soft and really noble plastic, like Germans, or almost like Germans. The only complaint is rather quickly fraying leather on the steering wheel, as well as the gear lever or automatic selector. The leather of young Korean Dermatine began to deform after 15,000 kilometers. I replaced it under warranty, but on the new steering wheel it is exactly the same. I will stitch it myself. After the purchase I thought for a long time that I took the car with corrected mileage, because the steering wheel and the gearbox handle had scuffs. Went to the forum and saw that about 98% of owners face this situation. And, of course, the owners highly appreciate the saturation of the car with comfort options. The most frequently mentioned is not only heating of all seats, but also of the steering wheel. In our climate it is a bomb. 4. The option of a warm steering wheel, a special thanks. The only thing that is not very pleasant is the location of the key to turn on this function, because you have to operate it by touch. Well, and in the rest, even the average complete set assumes very high optional filling, an electric drive of mirrors, electronic settings of adjustment of a seat, parktronics, a rear-view camera, contactless access. And in a top complete set you will receive also a panoramic roof and not only heating, but also ventilation of a driver's seat. And here the function of automatic parking the owners almost never mention, and if they do, then only in the style of "I never used it," but often praise the speed limiter, very convenient function of physical speed limiter. You can forget about fines from cameras. And when you need to, you can overtake without any problems. A lot of praise is devoted to the Infinity JBL audio system. The music in the car is a bomb. All the speakers are selected with high quality. The sound pressure is also excellent. Guys, it's a bomb. Bose Intina and Mazda are smoking aside and better than Volvo DIN audio. Very competently tuned system. Suitable for all styles, clean, rich sound. Whatever it is, the owners recommend not to chase cheapness, but to look for the most complete sets in case of purchase on the secondary market. If there were no pluses, which are in the maximum, there would be, probably, quite a different attitude. Let's agree right away, 135 to 145 mm of ground clearance of the Kia Optima III is not an indicator with which one can feel confidently outside city streets and asphalt highways. This is confirmed by almost all owners. It is quite comfortable to drive in the city, but it is better not to drive off the roads. It is a bit uncomfortable on a dirt road or in the snow. It is not worth moving off the road. Large overhangs, soft suspension and low landing even on small ruts and hills will not let you go far away. Very low landing and large overhangs are the main disadvantages of the car. No, it is quite understandable that an experienced driver can still drive through snow-covered streets, get to a summer cottage or a cherished picnic spot on the shore. We even drove through rocky terrain at low speeds once. Despite the size and clearance, it is not too tense in winter. But you will experience certain difficulties even in the city in summer. For example, at perpendicular parking at a curb, the long hood and low front bumper look beautiful, but make it impossible to park over a curb when the wheel of the car rests in the curb. Because of this and because of the considerable length, the car often sticks out and protrudes at parking lots. I feel dimensions. Well, but I can't feel the front overhang, especially when I drive up to the curb. And also in many reviews owners regret the absence of all-wheel drive versions of the car. In their opinion, all-wheel drive would significantly facilitate their winter existence. Kia Optima III owners usually include dynamics in the list of advantages of their cars, although with certain reservations. First of all, the dynamics of the 2-liter version is considered sufficient at best. Maybe the 2.4-liter engine is more interesting. But we are both not racers and it's enough for us. But some people are a bit harsher. If you consider Optima with a 2.0-liter engine, be prepared that even Renault Logan with 1.8 Tandem 6 will overtake you at traffic light races. The weight of the car is big, so the 2.0 engine is not very pulling. On the highway it was not enough power. 2.4 would be just right. Otherwise, everything is normal. The car stands on the road like a stepped, it irons the road like a tank, goes very confidently. And it did not care about ruts and other joys of the big road. So, lovers of quiet and measured driving will find this variant quite suitable. With the 2.4-liter version everything is a little more complicated, because the evaluations depend to a greater extent on the starting point. Some of them write that with this motor it is quite possible to press the accelerator to the floor if there is a mood, that the automobile is rather dynamic, 180 forces are enough for fast driving, and that in its sports character is clearly felt, especially after Chapovka. But there is a very significant share of owners who are not satisfied with 180 horses under the hood after the 2-liter Passat SS 210 horsepower with DSG. The car seemed to be a vegetable even after flashing and removal of the catalytic converter. Dynamics, I can't say that I lacked it, but I didn't feel the reserve. However, the majority of authors recognize in their reviews that Optima is certainly not Porsche or even Audi, and 9 seconds to a 100 is not the most outstanding result, but the capabilities of the car are more than enough to not feel deprived neither in the city nor on the highway. And nevertheless this version disposes to quiet driving, and the car accelerates smoothly and on controllability, far not kart. As a result, it is easy to drive with a stream and faster than it, but for some reason you do not want. But very many people emphasize ideal coordination of work of the engine and 6-speed automatic. Koreans have invented very good and reliable 6-speed automatic box in combination with the engine. 5 points from 5-inch transmissions adjust smoothly and imperceptibly at sharp pressing on gas strongly does not dull. The box, one of the best, does not dull at all, switches perfectly smoothly. The tandem is well coordinated. I cannot fail to mention the work of the box and the engine, it is gorgeous. The car responds to the slightest pressure on the pedal, and it is necessary to get used to it. So it is not necessary to be surprised that very many owners write that on driving comfort it is the best automobile from those that we had, that in it you are not going, you are floating, and transportation in 1,000 km for a day does not cause special tension. But once again we repeat, to fans to play checkers and other traffic light Schumacher, Optima is categorically not suitable. There is no reserve on dynamics. You want to fly, but you can't. This is information for racers. A person who tries to understand what the suspension of the Kia Optima is really like based on reviews on the internet will face a complete fiasco and cognitive dissonance. Here a person writes, from minuses, not the most comfortable suspension. In the same Camry it is much softer. Suspension, in my opinion, is a bit soft, but it is durable. Okay, soft, but durable. But in the neighboring review the author complains, once a month we change something, bones, rubbers, lugs, rods. I have studied the suspension structure with this car. And then there is such a review. I drove 50,000 kilometers on 19 discs with 245/35 rubber, and the suspension did not require any intervention. And many people are ready to argue with the fact that the suspension is soft. Of course, the suspension is a bit stiff. It would be a bit softer, very, very stiff suspension. Especially it is felt on potholes. When roads in the city resemble the surface of Mars, you have to drive very carefully or choose another route. Stiff suspension. I do not drive on streetcar tracks at all, more than 30 kilometers. It shakes so much, even cheeks shake. Very strongly beat bumps and potholes. I drove very hard sports cars and I know what rigidity is, but here you really feel a strong impact from the bottom on seemingly small bumps. And literally in the next review, suspension has pleased. It copes very well both with large and with small bumps. Just calm down, as you will come across a review in which the rear suspension is badly hurt. What I do not like categorically, weak rear suspension. We were traveling with 4 people, parents are slender enough behind, the suspension works up to the jackhammer on pits. I came back from the trip with torn off rear mud flaps. You will not have time to be upset, as you read quite another estimation. Suspension very much likes, moderately soft and moderately hard, harder than in Camry, softer than in Accord. In short, it is clear that the matter is dark. Perhaps the closest to the truth are the following statements: it is just no good. On smooth roads it is good, otherwise it is noisy and uncomfortable. The car, of course, is for ideal roads. When you drive on such roads it is just super. But on non-ideal ones, which we have, as we know, a little more than just a lot, it is so bad. Well, and it is impossible not to mention one more congenital malady of Kia Optima, steering rack. The only thing that annoyed me was the steering rack. It was first changed under warranty, then tightened, but it still knocked periodically, although not critically. The sad thing, a month and a half after the purchase, the steering rack knocked. On Optima, as I understood, it is a sore subject. Indeed, problems with the steering rack are mentioned in many reviews. However, in most cases, the authors write about them as something insignificant, although annoying. One of the most important advantages of Kia Optima III authors of internet reviews consider roominess in all its manifestations. There is a lot of space in the salon, more than in Audi A6 and Mercedes E-Class. I am very satisfied with the size of the salon. Many SUVs in the salon feel less comfortable and sprawling. Space in the salon, as in a tank, you can cram a cow. Well, let's say Optima is not intended for car transportation at all, but the spaciousness on the back row really pleases owners. For me and my wife, comfort in the salon, large space was important. We have 2 children. For the time of possession of the car, we have never regretted about a choice. The salon is spacious, with my height in 184 centimeters. The passenger behind feels very even comfortably. There is a lot of space in the salon when I sit behind a wheel in my favorite position. Collapsed behind me, it is still possible to put a leg on a leg. There is a lot of place for rear passengers. The child in a chair and 2 adults are quietly placed. Many reviews note the convenience of landing and disembarking both on the first and second row. Children are mentioned for a reason. Most Kia Optima owners are family-oriented people. That's why they are so pleased with the volume of the trunk. The trunk is spacious, a stroller and a 2-wheeled children's bicycle can easily fit together. 2 children's snowcats fit in without any problems. The trunk included a stroller when folded. In short, size matters. The author of one of the reviews writes, "I realize that I am not comfortable with less. Understand correctly, after such a car, B and Golf class cars are not so comfortable." He felt it especially sharply after the birth of a child. In the trunk fits a chassis with a cradle plus a stroller. In general, you can put less in a big car, but you can't fit more than you should in a small one. The owners also mention the use of the car for transportation of building materials, but quite rarely. There are, of course, some minor complaints. In many reviews, the authors mention arcs eating volume inside the trunk. Someone would like the designers to increase by a couple of centimeters the height of the opening to make it easier to load a baby stroller, and someone even suggests the Korean designers to go for radical changes and make the rear window rising together with the trunk lid, that is, in fact, to turn the sedan into a liftback while preserving the overall silhouette. But it does not change the general purely positive assessment. Perhaps the main complaint to Kia Optima can be considered as complaints about noise insulation. The sharpness of dissatisfaction can vary from no noise insulation, of course, no, and noise insulation. Well, really terrible to relatively calm. Complaining noise insulation is not like in Germans, but it does not bother or sound. Comfort leaves much to be desired. I would like to get better insulation in a car for $1 million. And here it is necessary to take into account that in reviews you will not find complaints about aerodynamic noises with it full order. The owners also highly estimate noise insulation of the engine compartment. The engine is not heard in the cabin absolutely. To understand whether it is started or not, you have to look at the tachometer. It seems that up to 2000 engine revolutions there is simply no engine under the hood. But the underbody and wheel arches should be noisy without fail. But here someone is quite satisfied with the achieved results, and someone remains unsatisfied. I spent a lot of effort and money on noise insulation, but I could not achieve a good result. The arches were humming wildly. And there is only one proven recipe to make the music louder, especially since, as it has already been said, the quality of the audio system in Kia Optima is excellent. Well, the main advantages of Kia Optima of the 3rd generation still lie in the purely economic plane. First of all, the price itself. A used Optima aged 7 to 10 years can be bought at a price from 800,000 to 1,750,000 rubles, while the prices for a Toyota Camry of the same years are in the range from 1 to 2.5 million, Mazda 6 from 1.1 to 2.1 million. Secondly, maintenance and operation of the car are not too burdensome. There are plenty of spare parts, both original and substitutes. Although there is a point of view that you should use only original parts, and non-original ones are broken before they reach the stores. Maintenance is quite cheap, even if the car is serviced not in a garage cooperative, but in serious service centers. Car maintenance costs pennies compared to Germans. The cost of maintenance is very pleasing. Thirdly, the tax is quite acceptable in Moscow and St. Petersburg, 5,250 rubles a year for the 2-liter and 9,000 for the 2.4-liter version, and hull insurance is quite cheap. As a result, you sleep peacefully and do not look out the window where the villains have not stolen your swallow. Fourthly, fuel consumption is more than acceptable. For cars with a 2.0-liter engine it is 6.7 to 7.5 liters per 100 kilometers on the highway, and the 9th of May, 10 liters in the city with traffic jams, 4 2.4-liter versions, 7.5 to 9 liters and 10 to 12 liters respectively. And it is that the engines digest 90-second gasoline without problems. Here it is only necessary to take into account that more powerful versions allow to keep air conditioner constantly on in summer and not to feel power drop, but with 2-liter Optima this number does not pass. Well, and finally, the most important thing, in a huge number of reviews you can read that for all the years of ownership the car has never failed them, for all the time not a single breakdown, for 8 years the car has not caused any worries, there were no global problems from TO to TO, traveled for almost 4 years about 100,000 kilometers, and absolutely nothing broke in it. Even somehow it was boring, although the car was driven every day. Of course, everything that a person has done is bound to break down someday. But you read the list of repairs for 7 to 8 years of ownership and understand why the authors of reviews write that almost nothing broke. Well, can someone be frightened by replacement of steering knuckles, hub bearing and double replacement of brake pads for 8 years? I came across only one review, written by a person who ran into an unlucky copy, and that happened in 2013. Of course, when buying it is desirable to check the condition of the most vulnerable places, the already mentioned steering rack, catalytic converters, spark plugs. Well, and be sure to ask the craftsman to look into the cylinders with the help of an endoscope. The problem of scoring is characteristic not only for Kia Optima, but also for many other brands. The main reason for this phenomenon is overheating of pistons and cylinder walls when driving in the style of tap to floor from traffic light to traffic light, clogged cooling radiators, untimely oil change or poor oil quality, as well as the destruction of the catalytic converter, because a clogged catalytic converter significantly reduces the passage of exhaust gases, which again inevitably leads to overheating of cylinder walls and pistons. In addition, on the internet you can read about the problem of rotating crankshaft liners engine 2.4 NU, but this disease is characteristic of motors of the first years of release. The main preventive measure is the use of only quality and correct oil, and under such conditions these engines easily survive 250–300,000 kilometers. In any case, I have not come across a single review in which the author would describe a collision with this malfunction. In conclusion, the Kia Optima III generation offers a compelling mix of features that can make it an attractive choice for many buyers. With its stylish design, comfortable interior, and strong reliability ratings, it certainly has its merits. However, potential buyers should also consider the drawbacks, such as limited engine options and the availability of newer competitors in the market. Ultimately, whether to buy or not to buy the Kia Optima III generation depends on your individual needs and preferences. Weighing these 5 reasons will help you make an informed decision that best suits your lifestyle. Thank you for watching, and we hope this guide has been helpful in your car buying journey.